morning you guys, it's Karen and I'm here to talk about snail secretions in skincare specifically, and is there any evidence for it working for anything? What does it feel like? What products are there that you can buy, etc, etc. So the correct title for garden snails is Cryptomphalus aspersa, and the secretion is used from these snails, and so you'll often find this ingredient talked about abbreviated as SCA, which is secretion of Cryptomphalus aspersa. The secretion that is used in skincare is not the slime that you see as they move along the ground. It's in fact another type of mucus that they release. It's not very nice words, are they? Another type of mucus they release under certain conditions. So I'll talk about those at the end when I'm talking about whether this is cruelty free or not. But within this particular secretion, there's so many good things. It's a type of growth factor. It has hyaluronic acid in it. It has copper peptides in it. It has glycolic acid in it. There's so much goodness in this secretions, which is why it's thought of as a possible skincare and anti-aging ingredient. So the claims for this in skincare are that it's a great anti-aging ingredient and that it's good for hydration. So increased hydration levels, which makes sense from the hyaluronic acid, and as an anti-ager in terms of wrinkles, and it specifically talks about deep wrinkles as well, not just fine lines, but fine lines and wrinkles, pigmentation and uneven skin tone. It's also suggested that it would be great for things like radiation dermatitis, and just general wound healing, and there's thought to be no irritation from this at all. There is some evidence, but it's limited. Most of the evidence and most of the research is done in vitro, so it's lab studies, but there is one human study that I can find that is very interesting and seems like a good study, although it's in only a handful of people. Well, 25 people. It is a two-center study, it is a double-blind study, which means that it is much more believable, if you like, but there needs to be bigger multi-center, you know, with hundreds of people, if not thousands. But this particular study, they applied 40% what they call SCA in the morning as an emulsion, and then they applied an 8% in the evening as a liquid. So that was 25 people for 14 weeks, which is a fair amount of time, and the results were excellent, and it showed that there was improvement, like I said, not just in fine lines, but in deep wrinkles. The only thing I did notice is in the conclusion of the study, it says subjects noted a significant degree of improvement in fine lines at the 8-week point, blah, 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 but did not report a significant difference in the quality of their skin. So it seems like they didn't experience any textural differences. But like I said, quite a good study and promising. This is another of those ingredients that you would say is promising. Next, we'll have a look at the products, their ingredients, and also whether or not this is cruelty free, and you can make up your own mind because it seems to be quite a controversial conversation. The product that I've tried is this is the Dr. Organic Bioactive Organic Snail Gel Facial Serum. I've seen this in Holland and Barrett for a couple of years, I think, quite a while, and never really fancied it, never looked into it. But I bought it so that I could say to you guys I'd at least tried one of these serums, and this is fairly nice. I'll put it on my hand, but I have got a video of me putting it on. It's a sort of milky serum, as you can see. It's fairly moisturising. It does feel nice going on. My problems with this are, firstly, it has lemongrass oil in it. It's very, very strong, and I believe that's an irritating fragrance on the skin. Well, I believe it is. It irritates the skin, and it's a very, very strong smell. So I can only imagine that there's something in there that they need to put the fragrance in to cover up, because like I said, it's very, very strong. And so that would put me off. Firstly, I don't like the smell, but secondly, I don't want something that strong and irritating in my skincare. But the second thing with this is there's no indication of the level. Actually, there's three things. The second thing is there's no indication of the level or the percentage of snail secretions in here. It tells you that it is an ingredient, but it doesn't say how much, whereas the other two that I've got to tell you about do. What was my third thing? Oh, my third thing was just something I don't have an awful lot of knowledge on, and it would take me a long time to study, is the different species of snails. But certainly the name I gave you at the beginning, the Cryptomphalus aspersa, is your garden snail, and there are lots of different type of land snails, but the study that I talked to you about was done on Cryptomphalus aspersa. There are other types, and so this one is, I think, called Helix something, and so I don't know whether that would yield the same results as the other type of snail, because there's not the research in skincare. There is research in it, but it's for something else. It's not for skincare and aging, etc. So honestly, this is not one I would recommend. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it again. I might send it to my mum, because I don't think she would, you know, be bothered about the smell. I'm not sure. I don't want to use something that's got that strong a smell of lemongrass. It's really overpowering even now, just being on my hand. That one, by the way, I bought from Holland & Barrett, and I think it was normally like £24.99, and I bought it for £12.99. It was, you know, in their sale. Then there are two other products that I have heard of the brands, but I've never used anything by. The first one, if I can find it, is the Corsrx Advanced Snail 96 Mucin Power Essence. You can buy this on Look Fantastic. There's 100ml and it's £24, but you can also buy it on a website called Yes Style for £13.21, and I believe you can get, it's currently discounted, by the way, it was normally £16, but you can get free postage on here. I think if you spend over £30, under £30, it's £4, so that was make it £17. So it's still less expensive from Yes Style. I've never used this website. Let me know if you guys have used this website and if it's okay. It's not one that I've never looked at it and thought, oh yeah, I better buy something from there. I'm just never sure of it as a website, that's all. But that Corsrx one looks okay. It doesn't have any perfume in it, it doesn't have any alcohol in it, and it's got 96% snail mucin in it. The only thing is it doesn't tell you what type. It just says, under the ingredients, it just says Snail Secretion Filtrate. So it's not telling you exactly what one is in there. But yeah, that one looks pretty good, so I might well try that. I say might because I'm still not sure about the cruelty aspect, which let me tell you about that after I've told you all the products, and then if anybody's got any information, you can let us know. The third product is by Mizon, and they only seem to be available on the Yes Style website, but they've got quite a few products, but the specific one I looked at was the Snail Repair Intensive Ampule 30ml, and that is currently £11 or £10.59, usually 26. It has got 80% Snail Secretion Filtrate in it, but again, it doesn't tell you what type is in it. It just lists it as Snail Secretion. The reviews on all of these products, by the way, are good. And this one, unfortunately, has alcohol in it. It's listed as ethanol, but that's still alcohol. That's still pure alcohol. And I think it's number 3 or 4 on the list. So that's not one that I would use. I just think that that defeats the purpose of using an anti-aging ingredient if you're then going to damage your skin with alcohol. So that's my personal feeling on that one. So if I was going to go for one, having now done my research, I would probably go for the Corsrx one. I tend to buy things to review because I know I'm going to do an ingredient spotlight and then come to this conclusion that actually I wouldn't use this one. So perhaps I should do my research first and then buy the product, but it would just take longer to get the video to you because I want to be using the product and testing it. I don't know if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like some people say, well, how can you tell that this is a good or not product because you've only been using it a few days? I've only used that once actually. But the point of these videos, these ingredient spotlights, aren't to test it from a patient point of view, because we all have different experiences and we all see different things. You know, you could have the placebo effect. The point is to tell you what the evidence says, and then testing the products, I can tell you if they've got any other not so great ingredients like perfume, like alcohol, how much they are and how they actually feel on the skin. So the product I'd recommend is by Corsrx. Down to whether these are cruelty free or not, all of the companies are cruelty free. So I had looked up whether this was cruelty free or not, and it is. But then when I started to learn about how they extract the snail mucin, the snail filtrate, that's when I became a bit concerned. And there's so much conflicting evidence out there for this. In fact, there's so much conflicting information, but not really any evidence. Nobody really talks about how they remove the mucus from the snails, or it's a very secretive thing, it seems to be. But the information is 50-50, so depending what you read. So I have read that you can only get the secretion from them under certain circumstances. So like I was saying, you can't get it if they are just walking along in daylight on the ground. You couldn't pick that snail up and then put that on your face, and that's not gonna have an effect. It needs to be under certain conditions. Corsrx and Mizon both announced that they use the cruelty-free method, which is that they put snails in a dark room, the snails crawl along a mesh, and that produces the mucus that is needed. And that kind of matches up with another source of information that I'd read, where they need to be happy to release this type of mucus, which I thought, oh, that's fine then, you know, I'm all right with that. They've got to make the snails happy, and so they're putting them in this dark room, and apparently snails are happiest in the dark and they like this type of surface, therefore they release this mucus. You can also use salt water, you can use hands, because there is, now I can't remember who, it wasn't one of these three, but there was something I read where a company used the hand method. Now the hand method is not good, because that's basically poking them to stress them out, because other information I've read is that you can get this filtrate by stressing out the snails, which is done either by poking them with your hands or with sticks, or by putting them in a centrifuge. That just horrifies me. A centrifuge is, you know, something that spins blood, and so this is just going to spin them around and terrify them, and then they release this mucus. That's the bit that I read and thought, oh no, there's no way I'd want to use something that, you know, was doing that to snails. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that don't care about snails, but, you know, there will be people that do as well. But that's why I like the fact that Corsrx and Mizon have said they are using the technique where you put them in a dark room and they go along mesh. I need to look into that a little bit more, just see if I can find any research, and this will be in my kind of cruelty-free research, as to that making them happy. You know, I need to look into research of how you make snails happy and things like that. It's a bit more involved. And I don't think that they would lie, because I have to admit, my first thought was, well, they're not going to tell us if they're doing it, if they are putting them in a centrifuge. They would just not release the information. So how do you know they're telling the truth? But actually, if you go along that route, you wouldn't use anything, would you? Because you have to believe people when they say that they're cruelty free and that this is what they're doing, until proven otherwise, because otherwise you've nothing left to use. So I thought I would give you that information, and you can either look into it yourself or tell me if you know anything extra. But like I said, these two companies, Corsrx and Mizon, have at least been honest and transparent about the method that they're using that is not cruel to animals. This, however, wouldn't be a vegan product, obviously, because it does use an animal product. Okay, so that is everything. Let me know what you think about this. My friend was horrified. I was WhatsApping with my friend when I was doing the research to this in the evening, and I was saying to write back to my research on snail slime and in skincare, and she was like, I take it you're joking. And I was like, no, absolutely not. Snail slime in skincare is a big thing, you know. And she was like, no way, I'm not using that, you know. She couldn't believe it. So I'd be interested how many of you know about this, because like I said, it's not a new thing. And how many of you have been trying snail slime products? Have any of you tried the Corsrx and the Mizon? Let us know what you think of those. Yeah, that's everything. Let me tell you what's on my face. I have got on the Sleek Life Proof Foundation in LP04. On my eyes is that, oh, it's also sleek. It's the little cream eyeshadow. They're called foil something in Low Key. On my lips is Kat Von D Lolita, and on my cheeks is Clinique Blush in Ice Lotus. And that's everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.